For months now, our CBS News investigative unit has been exploring the dark, dangerous side of online dating. The results of their exhaustive inquiry will air all this week, starting now. Here's correspondent Jim Axelrod.
She had all these buckets full in her life. My mom did. But there was this one bucket that was missing, and that was a male relationship.
3 years after Kelly Gow's father died from cancer, her mother, 57-year-old Laura Kowal, a retired hospital executive, decided she was ready to start dating again.
My mom was actually very specific about wanting to do online dating. It allowed her the opportunity to have more control of what she was looking for in somebody, and it felt safer.
After going online, Laura found what she thought was true love on Match.com. She fell hard for a man named Frank, a self-described Swedish businessman. His profile included this stolen photo.
October 4th, 2018, she meets Frank over email. Smart, shrewd, savvy woman. 12 days later, telling someone she's never met, "You have my heart forever."
Clearly, my mom felt the emotions of feeling loved and having companionship just through email. And I know there's a lot of people out there saying, well, how could that happen?
That's right. This lonely-hearted retiree who sought safety as she started dating fell for a man she never met face-to-face. Which is why, in the summer of 2020, Kelly was relieved that Laura's online romance seemed to have run its course.
And I'm calling in regards to your mother, Laura Kowal,
Until she received an alarming call from a federal agent.
who may have been involved in a fraud scam as a victim.
I called my mom, and I immediately knew there was something legitimate to this.
What are you thinking?
I knew it had to do with Frank.
Kelly rushed to her mom's home in Galena, Illinois.
It's not like she'd planned to leave, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Calling the police when she found the house empty,
Effie was just laying on the couch when I got here.
except for her mom's dog, Effie, who never left her side.
I just don't know where she would have gone.
She started looking for clues, sifting through bank records, and discovering her mom had wired Frank about $1.5 million, just about everything she had.
I think as I went through and started uncovering this, I just became almost sick at just the depths of all of it.
In the last year, 2023, our best estimate is losses in the range of $1.3 billion related to romance scams alone.
1.3 billion.
And that represents an increase from about 500 million in 2019.
Arun Rao runs the Consumer Protection Branch at the Department of Justice, which investigates online romance scams.
It's been a rapid rate of increase, but we believe that is also substantially undercounting the true extent of the problem.
Undercounted because people are wrapped in shame and embarrassment, and so they may not actually go to law enforcement and report it?
That's right. They may be embarrassed that they have been victimized in this way. They may be afraid to tell their friends or family.
They come from all walks of life. It's all ages.
All education levels?
All education levels. Doctors and lawyers to ditch diggers.
Even though retired U.S. Postal Inspector Natalie Rita saw it many times, it never failed to stun her how the heart overruled the head.
When you're signing up, there are banners and warning signs that say, don't ever send money to somebody you don't know.
Ron wants your money. Don't send it. The person pretending to be Ron is a scammer.
So people run right through the stop sign.
Oh, yeah.
As Laura drew closer to Frank, her family grew suspicious, and for good reason. As federal agents would eventually discover, Frank's photos were of an unsuspecting Chilean doctor, and his emails would be traced not to Sweden, but here, to Ghana.
You need to be very good in building the trust.
We spoke to a former scammer who called himself Emmanuel.
Actually, you need two things. You need to establish trust, and you need to exploit their hope.
That is it. So when we are able to do that, then we start extracting money from them.
Ghana and nearby Nigeria are home to thousands of scammers operating with impunity. They're called Yahoo Boys by religious leaders who seem to condone their crimes.
Many Yahoo boys, Yahoo girls, Yahoo man, Yahoo woman are going to make heaven.
Emmanuel describes sophisticated teams with specialists who could impersonate accents and harness technology to mask their location.
How hard was it for you to set up a fake profile on the sites like Match.com?
It is easy.
In a 2019 lawsuit, the Federal Trade Commission alleged that as many as 25 to 30% of Match.com members who register each day were using Match.com to perpetrate scams. 25 to 30%. Match Group told us in a statement, "We believe the FTC allegations have no merit."
Mr. Kim, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good. Jim Axelrod from CBS News.
After 6 months of asking Match.com's parent company to discuss this, we finally approached Bernard Kim, the CEO of Match Group, the largest online dating company, which operates apps including Hinge, OkCupid, and Tinder.
We've been talking to a bunch of scammers, and they say they're having absolutely no problem setting up fake profiles.
We're working really, really hard every single day to make sure that people are authentic.
I was talking to the head of Match.com, the man who runs it. And he said to me, making sure people don't get scammed, that's our top priority.
I think maybe he's not aware of what is really going on Match.com. Maybe he might think he had that security on Match.com, but people have their way around it.
It's easy to get around it.
So easy to go around it.
Match Group says it spends $125 million annually on trust and safety. Prosecutors do pursue cases against the scammers when they can find them. In Laura Kowal's case, they trace some of the money she sent to scammers to 3 people in Chicago who have been charged with wire fraud, including this woman, an American military veteran and postal worker named Jennifer Gosha.
I thought we were in a relationship, and I thought we were going to build together and have a life together, and it turned out that wasn't the case.
Gosha pleaded not guilty and told us she's not a criminal, but a victim who was coerced into helping Laura's scammers, saying the Nigerian co-conspirator she was dating used her to help launder money scammed from others.
Do you ever think to yourself, I played a part in someone's life being ruined?
I have thought that many, many times. And I didn't play a part in it knowingly.
If convicted, Gosha could face up to 30 years in prison. She claims she didn't make a single penny from any alleged scam.
I am not someone who decides at 52 years old, after all I've accomplished in my life, now I'm going to become a criminal mastermind.
Kelly spent weeks reading hundreds of emails between her mother and Frank as she untangled their relationship. And just like Jennifer Gosha's claims about the man she was dating, Frank had started teaching Laura how to help him move money. It's a harrowing new twist to online romance scams. Laura Kowal was now an accomplice, becoming what law enforcement calls a money mule.
They go and they open bank accounts at financial institutions. Most of the time, the wire transfers into the bank accounts are the proceeds from other romance fraud victims.
James Barnacle, the head of the Financial Crimes Division of the FBI, says this is next-level victim exploitation.
They're committing a crime at that point. So they've opened a bank account illegally under false pretenses. That's bank fraud.
Laura went so far as to set up fake dating profiles that ensnared more victims.
There were some emails where she said, I'm not comfortable doing this, saying that she's uneasy about this. It just really saddens me that it got to that point that ultimately she was participating in illegal behaviors.
Oh, I love you, honey.
With her mom still missing, Kelly found one more clue, a haunting note.
Kelly, you have kept me going this long. I love you. You were right in your judgment of me. I've been living a double life this past year. It has left me broke and broken. Yes, it involves Frank. I tried to stop this many times, but I knew I would end up dead.
2 days after she disappeared, Laura was found dead in the Mississippi River, almost 250 miles from her home. Kelly has spent the last 3 years desperately trying to find out just what happened to her mother, retracing the last hours of Laura's life from Illinois to Iowa to Missouri.
My heart is just extremely heavy that she died this way, and this is where she was found.
Laura's death was ruled a drowning, not a suicide. Kelly thinks about her mom's last note and believes she was killed. She drives the miles between her mom's home and where Laura was found, hoping to solve the mystery.
I never thought that this could happen to her, but I'm sitting here today as proof that this could happen to anybody.
The criminals who did this to your mom, we're sitting here because of them.
And I have so much anger towards them. Because I look at my life now and my mom is missing out on all of that. They took so much away from me. They took everything away from her. My family will never get that time back.
Tonight, a CBS News investigation into the dark and dangerous side of online dating. This week, we'll take a look at the threat affecting tens of thousands of Americans, largely in secret. CBS's Jim Axelrod meets a daughter whose mother was ensnared in a romance scam that cost her far more than her life savings.
Kelly Dow is a daughter searching for answers
I have an appointment with Detective Jeff Phillips.
about what happened to her mother. Laura Kowal, a 57-year-old retired healthcare executive who was widowed in 2015 and moved from Chicago to the small town of Galena, Illinois, to start her next chapter.
Oh, I love you, honey.
She had all these buckets full in her life, but there was this one bucket that was missing of having a relationship.
So Laura, like 3 in 10 adults have done, turned to online dating, creating a profile on Match.com.
It felt safer to do it that way than to go to a bar and meet somebody.
Online dating felt safer.
She matched with someone who called himself Frank Borg, and who used these 2 pictures stolen from a Chilean doctor. Frank claimed to be a Swedish businessman.
Clearly, my mom felt the emotions of feeling loved. And I know there's a lot of people out there saying, well, how could that happen?
64,000 Americans were taken for more than $1 billion by romance scammers last year, more than double the $500 million it was just 4 years before.
I'm calling in regards to your mother.
When Kelly got a call from a federal investigator
who may have been involved in a fraud scam.
Kelly?
Yeah.
Deputy Tavarthan with the Sheriff's Office. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
she raced to her mom's home, only to find it empty.
You must have been freaking out.
I was.
A search for a missing woman. Laura Kowal was last seen on Friday.
Turning the house upside down, Kelly found emails detailing a fraudulent investment scheme involving a fake company called Goose Investments. CBS News reviewed hundreds of emails from the scammer, laying out an elaborate scheme. Over the course of nearly 2 years, Frank convinced Laura to send him $1.5 million. But Goose Investments wasn't real. Frank wasn't real. And buried in a file cabinet was this note from Kelly's mom. I've been living a double life. Yes, it involves Frank. I tried to stop this, but I knew I would end up dead. Laura's body was found in the Mississippi River, more than 200 miles away, somewhere Kelly says she'd never been. The medical examiner called it death by drowning, never ruling homicide or suicide.
I had a lot of questions for the Sheriff's Department down in Missouri that was responsible for the recovery of her body.
Dissatisfied with the response from law enforcement, Kelly began investigating herself, tracing the possible routes where her mother's car was seen on surveillance tape.
This service station here
Yep.
captured your mom's vehicle.
Yep.
Getting answers is now Kelly's life's work.
It wasn't until I learned that I was going to be a mom myself and have a daughter that I knew that one day she would know the full story of how her grandmother passed away. And ultimately, her grandmother's story can save someone's life.
So many questions. As Kelly asks, how could her smart, successful mom be scammed out of her life savings? Tomorrow on CBS Mornings, from what authorities believe was Frank's home base, we'll meet a former romance scammer in West Africa. And tomorrow night on the CBS Evening News, we'll have a sinister twist when the victim actually becomes complicit in the crime. Maurice?
So many questions is right. Looking forward to it, Jim. Thank you.
We welcome you back to CBS Mornings. It's 7:30. This week, our CBS News series, Anything for Love, is focusing on the wave of online romance scams. Now, these scams are costing victims more than $1 billion, that's with a B, a year. That's double what it was 4 years earlier. And it's not just retirees and widows. Victims are all ages, including lots of men. Yep, men are falling for it, too. So far this week, we have focused on the story of Kelly Kowal. Her mom was a victim of a romance scam, and it cost her mom her life savings and eventually her life. Chief Investigative Correspondent Jim Axelrod is here with the next part of this story. Jim, what a story it is. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Gail. And those numbers, they're actually thought to underestimate the damage done by the scammers because shame and embarrassment actually keep people from reporting the crime. Kelly Kowal's mom fell in love with and got fleeced by someone she never actually met, conducting the entire relationship online and over the phone, and leaving Kelly with a very painful question. How did someone an ocean away lure in her mom?
She had all these buckets full in her life, but there was this one bucket that was missing that you or I, that nobody could fill after losing my dad.
To fill that bucket, Laura Kowal, a 57-year-old retired healthcare executive and widow, turned where 3 out of 10 Americans have to find love, to dating apps.
It felt safer than to go to a bar and meet somebody.
Online dating felt safer.
She would never put herself in a position of harm, right?
The profile Laura put on Match.com drew attention from a man using this picture who said his name was Frank. He claimed to be a Swedish businessman and convinced Laura to talk offline.
Initially, she was extremely giddy and happy talking to him. But as the relationship grew, the phone calls transitioned to nighttime. Then they almost became more secretive.
Over the next 2 years, they exchanged hundreds of emails, spoke regularly by phone, and declared their love for each other.
I think as I went through and started uncovering this, I just became almost sick at just the depths of all of it.
Frank convinced Laura to hand over her life savings, $1.5 million, for his fake investments.
She never met Frank.
I don't believe that she physically met Frank.
Federal investigators traced those who victimized Laura Kowal to Ghana. Investigators tell us Ghana and nearby Nigeria are home to thousands of scammers operating with impunity.
We have big people here in Ghana.
We spoke to a former scammer who called himself Emmanuel and told us how scammers can trick people like Laura. Once they establish trust, hope takes over.
You need to be very good in building the trust.
Actually, you need 2 things. You need to establish trust, and you need to exploit their hope.
That is it. So when we are able to do that, then we start extracting money from them. You cannot do that thing without the online dating site.
You need those online dating platforms.
Definitely.
Emmanuel says he worked with a team of scammers who could impersonate different accents. But his success depended on dating websites like Match.com, where Laura met Frank, who used a picture stolen from a doctor in Chile.
How hard was it for you to set up a fake profile?
Could I say it is easy?
It's a substantial problem, and it's one that's rapidly accelerating.
Arun Rao oversees romance scam investigations for the Department of Justice and says scammers are using AI to manipulate their voices and trick their victims.
If you are not perhaps accustomed to dealing with technology, then you may find yourself as a potential target.
Last year, more than 64,000 Americans reported being a romance scam victim. Many are older singles, lonely after a spouse dies, often with more money to target. But no one, says law enforcement, is safe.
We believe that is also substantially undercounting the true extent of the problem.
Undercounted because people are wrapped in shame and embarrassment.
They may be embarrassed that they have been victimized in this way. They may be afraid to tell their friends or family.
I've interviewed all walks of life, lawyers, doctors, to ditch diggers.
Retired Postal Inspector Natalie Rita interviewed hundreds of romance scam victims.
It's hard to watch. Getting a little emotional about that. Some people, you know, like when you talk to them, it's the first time they're admitting that they've been scammed.
Kelly? Yeah. Deputy Tavarthan with the Sheriff's Office. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
A search for a missing woman.
When Laura Kowal went missing,
You just knew.
I just knew. I had a gut feeling.
And you looked around, she's not in the yard anywhere?
Kelly turned her mom's house upside down and found this note addressed to her that read, "I've been living a double life. Yes, it involves Frank. I tried to stop this, but I knew I would end up dead."
It's still hard looking at this because I remember being so confused. Like, she's leaving me a clue.
Laura Kowal's body was found 2 days later, 235 miles from home, floating in the Mississippi River in a place Kelly says she'd never been. Laura's death opened up a number of tough questions for Kelly.
Could your mom have been compromised and then leveraged and actually been working for these guys?
The answer to that and several other dimensions of this diabolical crime is what we're digging into all week on the scam epidemic that's plaguing so many families across America.
Diabolical is the word here. How did she die? How did her mom die?
Well, there is no definitive answer to that. It was either suicide or homicide. The police death certificate did not make a definitive ruling, but let's remember one thing, Gail. Laura Kowal was found 250 miles from where she lived in a place she'd never been before. And she was very, very close to her daughter.
Her daughter, yeah.
What's so vile about this is, you know, love, connection, it's something we all need, we hunger for.
And it's one of our purest emotions.
It's a pure emotion. You're not using your brain, you're using your heart.
You're using your heart.
Right. And
Yeah.
the
And
heart
will win.
And
the heart always overrules the head.
It will lie to you. Your heart will lie to you sometimes.
There is a special place in hell
Yeah.
for these people.
But how do you do this, Jim? How do you get around this if you're talking to somebody? See, I don't know how you fall for somebody you've never talked to, but that you're just communicating with. But if you're talking to somebody on the phone and you think you're talking to this person,
Well, there's two answers
you've
to that
never
question.
seen them in person, though.
Most of all, they keep the communication to something
minimum.
through the keyboard, right? Through texting, through email. But they also have accomplices that are good at accents. And AI introduces an entirely new element to this because now voices can be manipulated. The Ghanaian scammer sounds like the Swedish businessman.
You believe what you want to believe when you think you're in love.
That's
Yeah,
exactly
but I'd
right.
want to see the person in person, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, it makes me so angry.
Me too. Jim, thank
Yeah,
you.
it's so interesting, Jim. Thank you. I mean, you know, the other thing, I know we got to go, but it fascinates me because you're thinking, I could never fall for something like that. But they don't just come and say, give me your money. They woo you in.
Yeah, we'll be back tomorrow with more.
Okay, I know, Jim. You're coming back tomorrow. Our series is called Anything for Love. It continues, though, tonight on CBS Evening News. And then, as you heard Jim say, back here tomorrow on CBS Mornings.
Tonight, we continue our CBS News investigation into the growing wave of online romance scams. CBS's Jim Axelrod reports on a sinister new twist when the victims themselves become accomplices.
My mom was actually very specific about wanting to do online dating, and it felt safer.
Online dating felt safer.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't painful enough that Kelly Gow's mother, Laura Kowal, was scammed out of $1.5 million, then found dead in the Mississippi River. When Kelly started investigating what happened, she discovered her mom's role in something criminal.
She got so deep into this scam, and when she tried getting out of it, she became what is known in these scams as a money mule. They got her hooked into it.
Laura wasn't alone.
My name is Glenda.
It's the latest scammer tactic, now so widespread that federal agents have broadcast warnings.
Police officers told me that my love was a scam.
This feels like it moves to a whole other level of sinister.
They use victims till the end.
Retired postal inspector Natalie Rita investigated cases where victims fell so hard for their scammers they'd do anything they were told, like depositing other victims' money in their accounts to launder it and stay one step ahead of the authorities. At first, the victims might not have realized they were committing a crime.
They check their reasoning at the door.
Kelly says her mom opened bank accounts, created fake corporations, and even set up phony dating profiles for the scammers.
Could your mom have been compromised and actually been working for these guys?
I believe so.
At the time of her death, police said Kelly's mom, Laura, was actually under investigation for money laundering. Federal agents had traced some of the money Laura unwittingly sent to scammers to Chicago and arrested this woman, Jennifer Gosha, along with 2 Nigerian nationals for alleged involvement in romance fraud. While prosecutors say Gosha was an active participant, she has pleaded not guilty and told us she too was a money mule, duped by one of the Nigerians, and says she never made a nickel.
It wasn't like a ding, 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 something's wrong.
Gosha says she dated one of the Nigerians in real life, but he operated behind her back.
I served in the Iraqi war. I raised my children. I am not someone who decides, after all I've accomplished in my life, now I'm going to become a criminal mastermind. If I'm going to come up with the scheme, it's not going to be this dumbass scheme.
If convicted, Gosha could face up to 30 years in prison.
Do you ever think to yourself, I played a part in someone's life being ruined?
I have thought that many, many times. And I didn't play a part in it knowingly.
You're saying you're a victim of the scammers as well.
I'm absolutely a victim. But
And you're a victim who may end up doing time.
And only because they feel like I should have known.
As for Kelly Gow, her thought is simple. Someone has to pay.
And I have so much anger towards them. They took everything away from her. And my family will never get that time back.
Wow. Eye-opening, disturbing. Jim, where does your investigation go now?
Well, Maurice, law enforcement tells us that the explosion of romance scams is tied directly to the increased popularity of online dating apps. They are, after all, a target-rich environment for scammers. So tomorrow, we'll dive much more deeply into that on CBS Mornings.
That's must see. Jim, thank you.
We welcome you back to CBS Mornings. It is 7:30. Our CBS News investigation, we're calling it Anything for Love, about the wave of online romance scams, turns now to the role of dating apps. So we've reported that these romance scams are costing tens of thousands of Americans more than $1 billion, that's with a B, a year. The FBI tells us that scammers have used online dating apps to broaden their reach. Chief investigative correspondent Jim Axelrod is back with that part of the story. I'm enjoying this series so much, Jim. Welcome back. Good morning.
So much heartbreak, Gail. So much heartbreak.
Yes.
Good morning. 3 in 10 Americans say they have used a dating app at some point. In the case of Kelly Gow's mother, she believed it was the safest place to find love.
My mom was actually very specific about wanting to do online dating.
Online dating felt safer.
Mm-hmm.
It's ironic.
I know.
Ironic, because after Kelly Gow's mom, Laura Kowal, found a partner on the dating site Match.com, she was scammed out of $1.5 million by someone posing falsely online as Frank.
Did she show you her profile on Match.com?
She never did. I thought she could navigate that very well and would never put herself in any position where she would get hurt.
Laura was like millions of Americans who have logged onto a dating app looking for love. But according to a Pew survey, more than half the people using dating apps believe they've been approached by a scam account. Take the profile picture of Frank, who Laura met on Match.com. We tracked the stolen photo. It's actually of a doctor who lives in Chile.
How is it possible that romance scammers can create these fraudulent profiles on online dating sites?
I mean, it's quite easy. They don't want friction on these apps.
Catherine Cosmides' nonprofit, Garbo, partnered in 2021 with Match.com's parent company to provide users with background checks. But after a leadership change at Match, the partnership broke down. Cosmides says the entire industry shortchanges safety.
So we've talked to every online dating platform out there, from the largest to the smallest. They all have similar thoughts and feelings around trust and safety.
And what are those feelings?
That trust and safety is not generating revenue enough for them to invest in it.
Cosmides is one of several people who worked on security with Match, who told us dating apps don't ask a lot of background questions of new users. The idea, she says, is to keep signups easy and the numbers up. For these subscription-based businesses, that's essential to boost revenue.
So they don't do enough, in your view, to combat the fraudulent profiles that are being established?
Correct.
In 2019, the Federal Trade Commission filed a lawsuit alleging from 2013 to 2018, as many as 25 to 30% of Match.com members who registered each day were using Match.com to perpetrate scams. In a statement, Match Group told us, "We believe the FTC allegations have no merit." 3 former executives who were at Match as recently as last year told us that fake accounts were a serious and persistent problem for overmatched and underfunded trust and safety departments, the corporate offices that handle customer security. Match told us it spends $125 million every year on trust and safety.
Prior to 2017, we didn't have a significant number of romance fraud complaints in the United States.
What changed?
The proliferation of the dating sites.
James Barnacle is the head of the financial crime section of the FBI.
We think it's really important for the tech companies to step up and curtail the abuse of American citizens.
After 6 months of asking for an interview,
Mr. Kim, how are you? Hi, how are you? Good. Jim Axelrod from CBS News.
We finally approached Bernard Kim, the CEO of Match Group, which operates at least a dozen dating platforms, including Hinge, OkCupid, and Tinder.
Look, we invest a tremendous amount of capital, incredible talent on trust and safety.
We talked to several former Match employees, including former high-profile executives. And it's funny you bring up trust and safety, because they said that it never gets adequate resources.
I mean, if you look at our investment over the last several years, we've only increased the number of talented people, leadership that's focused in this area. It's existential to our business to remain safe.
Match told us they removed 96% of improper accounts within a day and used both AI and human moderators to remove bad actors. We tracked down a former romance scammer in Ghana and shared with him what the Match CEO told us.
How hard was it for you to set up a fake profile on the sites like Match.com?
Could I say it is easy?
We've reshifted the way that we've addressed people that can come into our platforms. We're working really, really hard every single day to make sure that people are authentic.
I think maybe he's not aware of what is really going on Match.com. So maybe he might think he had that security on Match.com, but people have their way around it.
So what can law enforcement do to tackle this growing threat? We'll have more on that on the CBS Evening News tomorrow, and you can see the whole story all in one place on Sunday night in our streaming documentary, CBS Reports.
Number one, I appreciate Mr. Kim talking to you as opposed to jumping in the car and running away.
Very important point there, Gail.
That he
Most
stood
people
there.
run. He answered every question.
Yes, he did, and he didn't stutter. But it does sound like that there's still a problem there. So what can people do to protect, what can we do to protect ourselves?
Well, I know this is going to sound simple and basic, but if you've never met somebody, you think you have because you've established a relationship through your fingers, right? Like by typing texts or emails. You don't know that person. Don't ever send them money. And if somebody suggests coming offline, off the dating platform, and talking on the phone or texting or emailing, run. Run. Nothing good ever comes
But Jim,
of that.
as you pointed out yesterday, they don't just say, now they give me some money. You know, you've engaged in a relationship and then they say, oh, I'm having some problems, can you help me out?
Because it's a heart transaction. It's not a head transaction. Everybody says, oh, how could this happen? Heart. It overrules the head. I do want to say one thing, though. This entire series only happens because Kelly Gao chooses to share her deeply personal, painful story with us in hopes of preventing other people from living the trauma that she lives every day.
She lost her mother in all of this. The tension seems unresolvable. On the one hand, the dating sites want to bring in customers and make it easy for new signups, but on the other hand, that's what allows the unsafe elements to come in.
And it's a target-rich environment for the scammers.
Sure
certainly is.
Jim, thank you very much. This is a really powerful series.
Great reporting.
Kelly Gao, thank you very much.
Tonight, we continue our CBS News investigation into one of the dark sides of online dating romance scams. In our final installment, CBS's Jim Axelrod takes a look at what law enforcement can do to combat this billion-dollar crime wave.
I never thought that this could happen to our family.
When Kelly Gao's widowed mother, Laura Kowal, went on Match.com, she eventually was scammed out of $1.5 million. Laura's life would end at 57, her body found in the Mississippi River.
We are constantly chasing our tails.
David Parrish is the sheriff in Lewis County, Missouri, where Laura's body was discovered.
Online romance scams are a scourge. We deal with it every other week.
But like law enforcement in small towns across America, Sheriff Parrish says he doesn't have the resources to fully investigate these online scam cases, even when a body washes ashore.
We are always behind the 8 ball on this.
But it's not just Sheriff Parrish who's frustrated.
It's a substantial problem, and it's one that's rapidly accelerating.
Arun Rao, the Justice Department official in Washington overseeing romance scam cases, says his main challenge is that the scammers are far away. The FBI has participated in operations in the West African nations of Nigeria and Ghana. Rao traveled there last fall.
We were shown video of scammers using artificial intelligence enhanced video technology. And so it appeared to the victim that they were speaking to another American citizen.
It's like a little chilling as you're describing it.
It is chilling, and it also makes it challenging for law enforcement to intervene.
But this former scammer, who spoke to us from the West African country of Ghana, offers a key insight into combating these crimes.
You cannot do that thing without the online dating site.
You need those online dating platforms.
Definitely.
A 2019 Federal Trade Commission lawsuit alleged that between 2013 and 2018, as many as 25 to 30% of Match.com members who register each day were using Match.com to perpetrate scams. In a statement, Match Group told us, we believe the FTC allegations have no merit.
Hi, how are you? Good. Jim Axelrod from CBS News.
After 6 months of asking for an interview, we finally approached Bernard Kim, the CEO of Match Group, which operates at least a dozen dating platforms, including Hinge, OkCupid, and Tinder.
When we've talked to scammers in Africa, they say there's no issue, there's no problem setting up fake profiles.
I mean, if you've looked at our community standards, our guidelines, we've reshifted the way that we've addressed people that can come into our platforms. We're working really, really hard every single day to make sure that people are authentic.
Match told us they removed 96% of improper accounts within a day and used both AI and human moderators to remove bad actors.
To your customers who have lost a lot of money, hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars, life savings, or the relatives of people who've even lost their lives, what do you have to say to them?
Look, I mean, things happen in life that's really difficult. I have a tremendous amount of empathy for things that happen. But I mean, our job is to keep people safe on our platforms. That is top foremost, most important thing to us.
One more note about the Match Group.
Last month, they announced a new head of trust and safety. That's the corporate office responsible for customer security. Nora?
Jim Axelrod, thank you.
All week, we've been taking you inside the troubling world of online romance scams. CBS News and Stations reporters found courageous victims nationwide willing to come forward with their stories. CBS's Jim Axelrod reports.
From Colorado
he's always very romantic.
to California,
I messed up my life.
CBS News searched court cases across the country to find scam victims with the courage to share their stories. People like Connie in New York, who say for too long this crime has carried an unwelcome stigma.
Every day I beat myself up. How stupid are you, Connie? You're an educated person.
The Federal Trade Commission estimates last year 64,000 Americans fell for dreamy but fake identities online. 40% of the victims are men.
I believe this person. That's why I fell for her.
Anyone looking for love can fall victim.
They come from all walks of life. It's all ages. It's, 20s to 70s, 80s.
All education levels?
All education levels. You're talking doctors and lawyers to ditch diggers.
It happened to Karina, a California woman with a PhD.
I clearly so badly wanted to believe in the dream that he was selling me.
These organizations are sophisticated. They know how to defraud everybody. They're very good at it. That's what they do. They are motivated by money.
Romance scams cost Americans more than $1 billion last year. And this Texas woman reveals it nearly cost her life.
I felt like I couldn't live knowing that I had participated in something like that.
In this epidemic, advocates encourage compassion for victims.
The worst thing to do is to pass judgment, to make them feel stupid.
And urge caution for everyone looking for love. Jim Axelrod, CBS News, New York.
The CBS Reports documentary, Anything for Love, Inside the Romance Scam Epidemic, premieres tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern on CBS News 24/7, streaming on the free CBS News app.